The modern world is a constant, screaming testament to chaos. Every headline, every flashing notification, every unexpected reversal of fortune, seems designed to pull us away from solid ground. We live at the mercy of volatility, our inner peace often sacrificed on the altar of external demands. But what if there was an ancient, proven philosophy that offered a radical alternative? What if the key to tranquility wasn't to eliminate the chaos, but to fundamentally change how we relate to it? This is the promise of Stoicism. It is not a call to apathy or emotionless endurance, as is often misunderstood. Instead, it is a demanding, yet profoundly empowering, path to internal freedom. It suggests that our greatest superpower lies in the one domain no external force can touch, our judgments. We chase control in a universe that is inherently uncontrollable, and this chase is the root of our suffering. We fret over tomorrow's market, yesterday's slight, the choices of others, all while neglecting the single choice that truly matters: how we respond. The Stoic path is a journey back to the self, a rigorous training regimen for the mind. It compels us to distinguish with clarity between what is up to us and what is not. This simple dichotomy, the famous dichotomy of control, is the foundation upon which all else is built. It is the compass that guides us through the fog of anxiety and the storms of misfortune. It promises not a life without trouble, but a life where trouble loses its power to destroy our inner citadel. To understand the power of Stoicism, we must first transport ourselves to the streets where it was born. The year is around 300 BC, and the setting is Athens, a city recovering from political upheaval and the philosophical fallout of earlier traditions. This was a time of immense uncertainty, not unlike our own, where empires rose and fell with terrifying speed. Zeno of Citium, a Phoenician merchant who lost his cargo and fortune in a shipwreck, stumbled upon philosophy. He sought a life raft for the soul, a system of thought that could withstand the caprices of fortune. He began teaching at the Stoa, the painted porch, and thus, Stoicism was born. It was a philosophy for the masses, taught in public, accessible to everyone from slaves to emperors. Unlike other schools of thought that retreated into academic abstraction, Stoicism was immediately practical. It offered a manual for living well, regardless of one's station in life. It flourished through the tumultuous Roman Republic and the early Empire, adapting and evolving over 5 centuries. This historical context is vital. Stoicism was forged in the fires of real-world struggle, tested by war, political intrigue, and personal tragedy. It was a philosophy not for the library, but for the battlefield, the marketplace, and the palace. Its endurance is a testament to its efficacy, a living tradition that survived the collapse of civilizations because its core message is timeless: find your highest good within your own rational faculty. The story of Stoicism is best told through the lives of its most compelling practitioners, figures who stood as living proofs of its principles. Our key subjects span the entire spectrum of Roman society, demonstrating the universal applicability of the philosophy. First, we meet the former slave, Epictetus. He endured unimaginable hardship yet taught that freedom is not a political status but a state of mind, achievable only by mastering one's desires and aversions. His teachings, preserved in the Discourses, are the most direct and fiery expression of Stoic training. He serves as our guide to the essential, uncompromising core of the doctrine. Next, we encounter the statesman and playwright, Seneca the Younger. A wealthy advisor to the Emperor Nero, he navigated the treacherous waters of the Roman court, experiencing exile and ultimately, forced suicide. Seneca's letters are a masterpiece of applied Stoicism, addressing topics from grief and anger to wealth and ambition. He represents the challenge of practicing Stoicism while deeply embedded in a chaotic world of power and material temptation. Finally, there is the emperor, Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the vast Roman Empire at its height. His private journal, known as Meditations, offers an unprecedented glimpse into the mind of a leader trying to govern justly and maintain his virtue under immense pressure. These three men, the slave, the senator, and the emperor, form the narrative backbone, showing that the Stoic path is a hierarchy of commitment, not of class. The initial problem that Stoicism seeks to solve, and the enduring mystery that plagues human existence, is the paradox of happiness. Why, despite having more material comfort and control over our environment than any generation before us, does anxiety, despair, and a sense of pervasive dissatisfaction continue to dominate? The Stoics identified the fundamental error: we constantly externalize our highest good. We place our happiness, our eudaimonia, flourishing, in the hands of things outside our direct control: wealth, reputation, health, and the behavior of others. The mystery is why this error is so difficult to correct. This is the central dilemma. If happiness depends on external events, then happiness is fundamentally insecure. It becomes a commodity that can be bought, stolen, or destroyed by fate. The Stoic path poses a radical solution: what if the only true good is virtue? Not a puritanical moralism, but virtue as excellence of character, defined by our rational choices. The initial philosophical problem is to prove that this internal, self-sufficient good is superior to all external goods. The mystery is how a simple, rational premise, that our judgments about things, not the things themselves, cause our emotional distress, could be so profoundly transformative, yet so often ignored by human beings for millennia. The first major clue on the Stoic path, and the most crucial lesson for any beginner, is the relentless emphasis on the dichotomy of control. This concept is not merely a philosophical point, it is a life-altering mental practice. Epictetus begins his Enchiridion with it: some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. This declaration is the event that shatters the common-sense view of the world. It draws a clear, unforgiving line between our own actions, judgments, and desires, up to us, and our body, property, reputation, and other people's actions, not up to us. The immediate, major event of this realization is the shift of energy. Most people spend 90% of their time worrying about the 10% of things they cannot control. The Stoic, through this discipline, consciously redirects 100% of their mental effort toward the things that are entirely within their power. The clue is in the feeling of that redirection, a sudden, profound sense of liberation. When a Stoic loses a job, they recognize the job was not up to them. What is up to them is their response, whether they react with panic, blame, or with rational determination to seek the next opportunity. This clue, this shift in where we place our focus, is the initial spark that sets the Stoic journey into motion, immediately reducing anxiety by cutting off the source of futile worrying. The deepest origins of Stoicism reveal its debt to earlier, often forgotten, Greek thought, establishing it as a synthesis of intellectual history. While Zeno is the founder, the philosophical roots trace back, unexpectedly, to the Cynics. The Cynic philosopher Diogenes, with his radical self-sufficiency and rejection of social convention, provided the spark for the Stoic ideal of virtue as the sole good. Zeno took this uncompromising pursuit of virtue but refined it, stripping away the Cynic's aggressive asceticism to create a philosophy that could function within society. This integration made Stoicism revolutionary. Further intellectual roots are found in the Heraclitean concept of an ordered, rational cosmos, often referred to as logos. The Stoics embraced this idea, believing the universe operates according to a perfect, rational, and deterministic plan. Their virtue is thus not just a personal goal but a cosmic alignment, to live in agreement with nature. This deep dive into the origin shows that the Stoic path is not a simple set of maxims but a comprehensive system of physics, ethics, and logic. The logic served as the shell, the physics as the core understanding of the world, and the ethics, the pursuit of virtue, as the ultimate purpose. This three-part framework gave Stoicism its robust, enduring power. Stoicism, even in its own time, faced competing philosophies and early misdirections, which serve as crucial counterpoints to understanding its true nature. Its main rival was Epicureanism, which posited that pleasure, hedon, was the highest good. This often misunderstood conflict created a powerful contrast. While the Epicureans sought tranquility, ataraxia, by minimizing pain and maximizing gentle pleasure through retreat and friendship, the Stoics sought it through engagement and duty, insisting that virtue itself was the only secure path to a flourishing life. They saw the Epicurean reliance on external conditions, even simple health and company, as a fundamental weakness. The major early misdirection came from the popular interpretation of Stoic apatheia. This Greek term, often mistakenly translated as apathy, actually means, without passion, the eradication of destructive, irrational emotions like excessive fear, anger, and craving. The early critics misread this as a call to suppress all feeling, turning Stoics into cold, unfeeling automatons. The truth, as the Stoics taught, was that they sought to replace destructive passions with constructive, rational ones, or eupatheiai, such as rational joy, caution, and willing. This theoretical conflict clarifies the core Stoic message: it's not about feeling less, but feeling rightly, only what reason dictates is appropriate. In the narrative of Stoicism's enduring influence, the most crucial document discovered is undoubtedly the private journal of a powerful Roman emperor, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Unlike the discourses of Epictetus, which are lecture notes from a teacher, or the letters of Seneca, which are polished essays for public consumption, Meditations is pure, unedited self-talk. It is a raw and intimate witness to the daily, grinding psychological battle of a Stoic leader. This document was never intended for publication, offering an unparalleled authenticity to the Stoic struggle. The discovery reveals that even the most powerful man in the world was not immune to procrastination, frustration, and the desire to simply stay in bed. He writes private reminders to himself: to suffer is human. To bear it is divine. He constantly reapplies the dichotomy of control, reminding himself to focus on his own character and duty rather than the political chaos, the plague, or the endless wars. This crucial document serves as a powerful witness, dispelling the myth of the perfectly serene Stoic sage. It shows Stoicism as a messy, daily practice of wrestling with one's own mind, making it accessible and deeply human for the modern reader. The philosophical stakes escalate when the Stoic moves beyond the basic dichotomy of control and confronts the radical concept of fate and determinism. If the cosmos is governed by a perfect logos, and everything happens according to a necessary, rational chain of cause and effect, a concept the Stoics embraced, then how can moral choice and responsibility exist? This complication is the ultimate test of the Stoic framework, and it is where the philosophy either collapses into fatalism or elevates into profound spiritual acceptance. The Stoics had to reconcile destiny with free will, or the prohairesis. Their solution was ingenious and elevates the stakes of human action. They argued that while the events of the world are predetermined, the external, our assent to those events, and our judgment of them, are not. This power of judgment, the prohairesis or moral purpose, is the one and only thing fate cannot touch. The external event, e.g., losing a loved one, is fated. The internal response, e.g., reacting with rational composure and continuing one's duties, is a free choice. The complication thus forces the Stoic to recognize their freedom is not the ability to change the world, but the ability to change their relationship to it, making the commitment to virtue a matter of cosmic significance. The first analysis of the core evidence focuses on the ethical foundation of Stoicism, the four cardinal virtues. The Stoics adopted the Platonic virtues, but positioned them as the only true good, the sole ingredients for a happy life. These virtues are not abstract ideals but concrete, actionable skills: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. This evidence shows the philosophy is not passive, it is a call to moral action in the world. Wisdom, for the Stoic, is not mere knowledge, but practical judgment, the ability to navigate life's specific situations correctly. Justice is the commitment to fair and virtuous dealings with all human beings, recognizing the interconnectedness of humanity. Courage is not just bravery in battle, but moral courage, the willingness to live rightly even when it is unpopular or dangerous, and the fortitude to face adversity without mental collapse. Temperance, or moderation, is the self-discipline to govern one's desires and pleasures rationally, preventing them from leading us astray. This quartet of skills forms the core evidence of the Stoic project. A flourishing life is not a gift of fate, but a consequence of perfectly honed character applied consistently. By analyzing these four pillars, we understand that Stoicism is an ethics of constant, self-directed improvement. The geographical and environmental deep dive into Stoicism contrasts its public origin with the private, internal environment it seeks to cultivate. It began in the bustling, diverse marketplace of Athens, a deeply public philosophy. This physical setting is important, as it was a school for citizens, not recluses. The Stoic ideal was to be an active, contributing member of society, a philosopher-citizen who could weather the political and social storms while maintaining internal balance. This is fundamentally different from philosophical schools that encouraged complete withdrawal. However, the true environment of Stoicism is the inner one. Marcus Aurelius, in his private journal, repeatedly refers to the mind as the inner citadel. This is the environment the Stoic must fortify above all else. This internal deep dive reveals the daily practice of mental assent, the constant filtering of impressions and the refusal to give credence to irrational or destructive thoughts. The external world is the training ground, the chaotic environment that provides the necessary resistance. The true Stoic environment is the space between stimulus and response, the fractional moment where judgment is applied and peace is either won or lost. The narrative of the Stoic path requires profiles of its most persistent antagonists, the internal forces that actively work against tranquility. These are not external enemies, but the self-inflicted wounds of the soul, the irrational emotions the Stoics called the passions. The primary antagonists are anger, fear, excessive desire, and excessive grief. Seneca, in his treatise on anger, describes it as a brief madness, a self-destructive impulse that causes more damage to the angry person than to the object of their wrath. This irrational emotion blinds the individual to reason and justice, and must be eliminated entirely. Fear, the anticipation of external evils, is another antagonist. The Stoic must constantly practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, to reduce the power of fear by contemplating the worst-case scenario and realizing their virtue can survive it. Excessive desire, craving for wealth, fame, or pleasure, pulls the self away from its internal good, placing chains on the soul. These antagonists are the opposing forces that the Stoic must confront daily. They are not to be merely managed but systematically starved of the attention and assent that allows them to thrive, ensuring the inner citadel is free from sedition. A critical, unforeseen alliance in the modern application of Stoicism is its deep and surprising compatibility with modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. This alliance is not merely coincidental. The psychiatrist Aaron Beck, who pioneered CBT, acknowledged that his therapeutic model was directly inspired by Stoic principles, particularly those articulated by Epictetus. The core CBT model, that our thoughts and interpretations shape our emotions and behavior, is essentially a restatement of the central Stoic doctrine: men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. The alliance is a validation of ancient wisdom through modern science, transforming a philosophy into a recognized therapeutic tool. However, within this alliance lies a potential betrayal of the full Stoic vision. Modern CBT often focuses narrowly on symptom management, helping a patient manage anxiety or depression. The ancient Stoic path, conversely, is not merely therapy, it is a comprehensive system for eudaimonia, aiming not just for functional mental health, but for moral perfection. The betrayal occurs when the virtues and the cosmic worldview are discarded, reducing the path to a mere psychological trick rather than a total way of life. The point of no return on the Stoic path is reached when the practitioner fundamentally internalizes the philosophy, moving from intellectual agreement to existential commitment. This is the moment when they cease to merely read Seneca and start living like Seneca, choosing virtue consistently, even when it demands great personal sacrifice. It is the moment when the dichotomy of control is not a theoretical tool, but an immediate, visceral filter for every impression that enters the mind. For Marcus Aurelius, the point of no return was likely the moment he accepted the burden of the throne, knowing he was sacrificing personal tranquility for public duty. This point is characterized by a radical shift in values. External goods, money, health, status, are demoted from goods to preferred indifference. They are nice to have, but they are not necessary for happiness. The Stoic is now internally immune to the whims of fortune. Losing a fortune is a preferred indifferent lost, not a loss of happiness. This commitment is irreversible because the mind, once having tasted the profound freedom of internal self-sufficiency, can never fully return to the slavery of external dependence. The Stoic has chosen the high, difficult path of consistent rationality over the easy, self-destructive path of passion. The halfway revelation, the key midpoint twist that recontextualizes the entire philosophy, is the understanding of human interconnectedness and cosmopolitanism. Many assume Stoicism is a severe, individualistic pursuit of self-control, a cold, isolated philosophy. The twist is that it is, in fact, a deeply social and communal philosophy. The Stoics believe that all human beings are citizens of a single, rational community, the cosmopolis. This concept forces a radical expansion of the practitioner's moral sphere beyond their family and nation. This revelation transforms the practice of virtue. Justice is not just for one's own people, it is a universal duty because all humans share a spark of the divine logos, all are brethren. The practice of self-control is necessary not for personal benefit alone, but so one can be a more useful, reliable, and rational part of the human organism. Seneca's maxim, "We should live for others, if we wish to live for ourselves," captures this twist. The Stoics' tranquility, their disciplined mind, is not an end in itself, but a precondition for fulfilling their social duty and acting justly towards the wider world, turning a philosophy of self-mastery into one of universal service. The second set of clues delves into the discipline of assent and impression management. The initial clue was the dichotomy of control. The new evidence is the micromanagement of the mind within the controlled sphere. Epictetus taught that when an impression, a thought, a stimulus, an event, strikes us, we have a moment to choose whether to give it our assent, to agree with its contents. The new evidence lies in the power of the phrase, "It is only an impression, and not the thing itself." This clue focuses on the power of preemptive mental training. Before a crisis occurs, the Stoic trains to recognize the difference between the description of an event and the judgment about it. A new impression, say, a colleague's insult, is simply a set of words. The judgment, "This insult is a terrible thing that diminishes me," is what causes distress. The new evidence compels the Stoic to pause and interrogate every negative emotion, tracing it back to the faulty judgment that created it. This discipline allows for the rapid deconstruction of anxiety, making it a powerful, practical tool for daily life that goes far beyond merely knowing what to control. The psychological and social impact of the Stoic path is profound, extending far beyond the individual's inner peace. Psychologically, the rigorous training in recognizing and correcting irrational judgments fundamentally alters the individual's ego defense mechanisms. Instead of externalizing blame or seeking validation, the Stoic turns inward, accepting full responsibility for their psychological state. This radical self-responsibility is the foundation of mental resilience, effectively inoculating the mind against the self-pity and victimhood that plagues modern culture. Socially, the impact is one of quiet, ethical influence. A true Stoic is, by necessity, a person of profound reliability and justice. In a world of fickle, passion-driven people, the Stoics' commitment to reason, honesty, and duty makes them a pillar of their community. Marcus Aurelius's reign, despite being plagued by war and plague, is often cited as the peak of the Roman Empire's ethical governance. The social impact of Stoicism is that it creates citizens who are not easily swayed by political hysteria, who are immune to corruption, and who can face public adversity with unshakable resolve, an urgently needed counterforce in any tumultuous society. The second analysis of core evidence shifts from ethics to the discipline of desire and aversion. This is where the practical, daily struggle of Stoicism is most visible. The Stoic must eliminate all irrational and excessive desires, e.g., desire for great wealth, desire for perfect health, and all irrational aversions, e.g., aversion to poverty, aversion to pain, aversion to death. The core evidence here is the concept of premeditation of evils, premeditatio malorum, and voluntary hardship. To master desire, the Stoic practices premeditatio malorum, contemplating the loss of what they value, friends, fortune, health. This practice is not morbid, it is a mental rehearsal that breaks the false assumption that these things are permanent. By rehearsing the loss, the Stoic reduces the shock and panic when the loss actually occurs. To master aversion, they practice voluntary hardship, wearing simple clothes, eating plain food, or subjecting themselves to mild discomfort. This evidence proves that the Stoic path is a philosophy of action and training, using discomfort as a necessary tool to build resilience against real misfortune. The investigation into the Stoic path deepens with a pursuit of its most advanced practice, the discipline of action. This is the practical application of virtue in the world, the ethical imperative that prevents Stoicism from becoming mere navel-gazing. This discipline requires the Stoic to act always with a reservation clause. When undertaking any action, no matter how important, be it a business deal, a political campaign, or a journey, the Stoic mentally attaches the phrase, fate permitting, or I will do this, unless something happens to prevent it. This pursuit transforms their engagement with the world. They pursue their goals with passion, skill, and diligence, the virtue of courage and temperance, but they are simultaneously insulated from the pain of failure. The success of the action is external and subject to fortune, the success of the intention, to act virtuously and with their best effort, is internal and entirely up to them. The investigation reveals that the Stoic is not withdrawn, but is the most effective actor in the world, precisely because they are not psychologically crippled by the fear of outcomes. A crucial flashback or parallel storyline to illustrate the core principle is the tale of Cato the Younger. Cato was a fiercely principled Roman statesman and a devout Stoic who lived during the civil war between Julius Caesar and the Republic. His story runs parallel to the lives of the great emperors, showing the philosophy in opposition to imperial power. Cato viewed Caesar's ambition as an existential threat to Roman liberty and virtue. He was defeated, but his legacy is the purest example of the Stoic commitment to duty and virtue regardless of the consequences. Even when cornered and facing certain death at the hands of Caesar's forces, Cato refused to compromise his principles. Rather than be captured or pardoned, he chose suicide, not in despair, but as a final, rational act to prevent his capture from validating a regime he believed was fundamentally unjust. Plutarch noted that he read Plato's dialogue on the immortality of the soul before taking his life. This parallel storyline provides a powerful, uncompromising counter-narrative, demonstrating the ultimate Stoic freedom, that one's character, and the choice of how to leave the world, remains entirely in one's control, even when everything else is lost. The ultimate confrontation on the Stoic path is the intellectual battle with the concept of death. Death is the greatest aversion for most people, the final chaos that dismantles all order. The Stoic engages in a lifelong, intellectual confrontation with this reality, transforming it from a terrifying end into a natural, indifferent part of the rational cosmos. Seneca dedicated significant thought to this confrontation, arguing that the fear of death is more painful than death itself. The physical confrontation with mortality is inevitable, but the intellectual confrontation determines its psychological power. The Stoic confronts death daily through memento mori, remember you must die. This is not a depressing exercise, but a clarifying one. By keeping the brevity of life and the certainty of death in mind, the Stoic is compelled to prioritize what truly matters, virtue, and discard all the petty anxieties and trivial pursuits that consume most people. The confrontation is intellectual, understanding that death is simply the return of matter to the universe, a cessation of one's consciousness, and an event that is not up to us in its timing, only in our preparation for it. This confrontation strips death of its terror and makes life more urgent and meaningful. The Stoic path is defined by a necessary sacrifice, the willingness to surrender the illusion of control. This is the major loss that must be consciously undertaken to achieve genuine tranquility. Most people cling desperately to the belief that if they worry hard enough, plan meticulously enough, and exert enough energy, they can force external outcomes to go their way. The Stoic realizes this is a delusion that creates chronic suffering. The sacrifice is the painful, yet liberating, surrender of this ego-driven need for external certainty. This sacrifice means accepting that you can be virtuous and still fail a project, lose a loved one, or suffer a devastating illness. The loss is of the feeling of guaranteed safety. The sacrifice is the choice to abandon attachment to outcomes. The Stoic still works, strives, and loves, but they do so with open hands, recognizing that the universe will ultimately determine the result. The profound irony is that in making this sacrifice, in losing the illusion of control, the Stoic gains the only control that ever mattered, complete, unassailable control over their inner self, their judgments, and their moral choices. As the journey nears its end, the final pieces of the Stoic framework fall into place, leading to a complete, holistic understanding of the philosophy. This is the synthesis of the three disciplines: the discipline of assent, logic/mind, the discipline of desire/aversion, ethics/will, and the discipline of action, physics/duty. They are not separate tools, but interlocking gears of a single, functional machine for living well. Assent ensures clear judgment by filtering impressions. Desire/aversion ensures emotional stability by correctly valuing only virtue. Action ensures ethical engagement by fulfilling one's duty with the reservation clause. When these pieces align, the Stoic achieves apatheia, not apathy, but a state of emotional equilibrium where destructive passions are eliminated. They also achieve eudaimonia, human flourishing, which is the natural result of a life lived consistently in accordance with virtue and reason. The final picture is not of a cold ascetic, but of a person wholly engaged with life, free from anxiety, capable of great love and profound courage, because they have made their inner self entirely safe from the ravages of fortune. The path resolves into a unified theory of self, cosmos, and action. The primary conclusion, the central truth revealed by the Stoic path, is that peace is an internal achievement, not an external condition. This truth is the ultimate liberation from the modern world's insistence that one must fix the outside world before finding stillness within. The Stoics fundamentally reversed the equation of happiness. They demonstrated that external chaos, war, plague, political upheaval, personal tragedy, can rage without end, and yet, the wise person can remain utterly calm and centered. The final revelation is the profound power of prohairesis, the moral choice. It is the one thing no tyrant can touch, no disease can destroy, and no accident can take away. This inner core of the self is the sanctuary, and all the Stoic practices are simply the training required to protect and strengthen it. The truth is that we have always been free, but we have chosen to ignore that freedom by attaching our welfare to things that are perishable and beyond our control. The Stoic path reveals that the path to peace is a path of self-mastery, a conclusion that places the full responsibility and all the power for happiness directly into the hands of the individual. The immediate consequences of adopting the Stoic worldview are tangible and life-altering, creating an immediate aftermath in the individual's mental landscape. The first consequence is a radical reduction in anxiety. By consistently applying the dichotomy of control, the mind is immediately relieved of the exhausting, futile work of worrying about uncontrollable variables. Energy previously spent on anxiety is redirected toward effective action on controllable duties. The second immediate consequence is an increase in gratitude and appreciation. The Stoic practice of memento mori, remember you must die, and contemplating the potential loss of external goods leads to a profound appreciation for what one currently possesses. Health, a comfortable home, and a loving relationship are no longer taken for granted, they are viewed as temporary gifts of fortune, to be enjoyed fully while they last. The aftermath is a mental environment characterized by calm focus, robust resilience, and a deep-seated, rational joy in the present moment, rather than being constantly pulled between regret over the past and fear of the future. The long-term legacy and impact of Stoicism stretch across Western history and thought, proving its timeless applicability. Its principles were influential in the development of Roman law, shaping the very concept of natural law and universal rights. During the Enlightenment, Stoic thought experienced a powerful resurgence, deeply influencing philosophers like Descartes, Spinoza, and Kant, who borrowed heavily from the Stoic emphasis on reason, duty, and self-control. The legacy is one of the quiet, rational bedrock upon which much of modern ethical and political thought is built. Beyond philosophy, the Stoic impact is seen in the ethos of endurance and duty that characterized the military and public service in many nations. In modern times, its greatest long-term impact is its direct, acknowledged influence on the development of psychological therapies, specifically CBT and modern resilience training. The philosophy has proven to be a perennial source of strength, continually re-emerging whenever society faces periods of great chaos or uncertainty, demonstrating that its core principles are fundamental truths about the human condition that transcend culture and time. The modern relevance of Stoicism is not just historical, it is a vital counter-narrative to the prevailing cultural winds of the 21st century. It has found powerful ties in the worlds of technology, finance, and elite performance. Silicon Valley CEOs and professional athletes often turn to meditations for its lessons in focus, resilience, and emotional stability under pressure. In a world defined by constant, instantaneous feedback and external validation, Stoicism offers the necessary anchor of internal metric. It provides a framework to combat the modern epidemics of anxiety and comparison culture. The Stoic teaching that external approval is an indifferent, and that our worth comes from our character, directly dismantles the corrosive effects of social media validation. The ties are particularly strong in the face of global events, pandemics, climate anxiety, and political polarization. Stoicism reminds us to act with diligence where we can, our local duties, our ethical choices, and to accept with serenity the large-scale forces we cannot control, providing a rational antidote to helplessness and despair. Despite the comprehensive nature of the Stoic framework, a few critical questions remain unanswered, creating a lingering mystery that continues to fuel debate. The most persistent mystery is the challenge of the emotions of love and grief. While Stoicism is excellent at eliminating destructive passions like irrational anger and fear, its teachings on deep, human attachment can seem cold or insufficient. How does the Stoic truly reconcile the inevitability of loss with the profound, non-rational bond of love? While they acknowledge that a rational person will feel a natural pang of grief, the line between this rational sorrow and the destructive passion of excessive grief is difficult to draw in practice. Furthermore, the reliance on a rational, deterministic logos remains a philosophical mystery for many. Is the universe truly ordered and purposeful, or is this belief simply a necessary, comforting fiction that allows for ethical action? The mystery is whether Stoicism is a reflection of cosmic truth or the ultimate, magnificent triumph of human reason creating its own truth in a chaotic void. This question ensures the philosophy remains a fertile ground for ongoing discussion and personal interpretation. The journey along the Stoic path finding peace in chaos concludes not with a final answer, but with a commitment to continuous practice. We have traced the philosophy from Zeno's porch to the private diary of an emperor, revealing its core truth: the path to an unshakable life is the path inward. The summary rests on three pillars: the clarity of the dichotomy of control, the strength of the four cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, and the power of the internal moral purpose, prohairesis. The Stoic does not seek to escape chaos, but to use it as the resistance training necessary for the soul. The final thought is one of radical self-empowerment. In a world constantly telling us we lack something, the Stoic message is that we already possess everything necessary for a flourishing life: our capacity for reason and virtue. Chaos is inevitable, suffering is optional. The path to peace is always open, paved not with external comforts or political victories, but with the daily, vigilant work of mastering one's own mind. We have the choice, in every single moment, to be ruled by passion or guided by reason. This is the enduring, simple, and profound choice offered by the Stoic path.